You are listening to C-Suite Perspectives, a podcast by the Conference Board.
Welcome to C-Suite Perspectives, a signature series by the Conference Board. I'm Steve Odland from the Conference Board and the host of this podcast series. And in today's conversation, we're going to talk about corporate responsibility and specifically how Webster Bank has built up its own portfolio around corporate responsibility. And joining me today is Marissa Weidner, the Chief Corporate Responsibility Officer at Webster Bank. Marissa, welcome to the program.
Hey, Steve. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, Marissa, your background and experience is really interesting. People often wonder, because nobody's born being a corporate responsibility officer. Tell us about your background and how did you get here?
It's interesting. I actually began my career in commercial property management, commercial real estate property management. And then I moved into economic development in both the Hudson Valley and Westchester County. And eventually I made my way into the financial industry and I joined what was then Sterling National Bank about actually almost 10 years ago. So I joined the bank and I made my entrance into the banking industry being part of a municipal banking team. So I learned about banking as part of that team, but what it was all about was building relationships and maintaining relationships. And that's a space that I was comfortable in. I had various different roles, Steve, across my career at the bank. And just prior to our merger, which is now 3 years ago, with Webster Bank, I was overseeing human resources. But then we merged.
Well, but see, this is really important because I think your experience, first of all, dealing directly with customers in the community and understanding their needs, dealing with the credit needs in the case of the bank, and then the marketing aspects of it, and then the internal employee aspects of it. It really has given you a broad-based look at what all the constituencies of the bank, and hence the corporate responsibility part of it just comes naturally to you.
Absolutely. And so when we merged with Webster Bank 3 years ago, we decided to create and shape an Office of Corporate Responsibility, bringing in all of the areas, if you will, that really help us drive community vitality and engagement. So today, I have the privilege of overseeing this Office of Corporate Responsibility, encompassing our corporate philanthropy, community investment and engagement, inclusive vendor engagement, sustainability, government affairs, CRA, which is the Community Reinvestment Act, fair and responsible banking, and also corporate communications and corporate marketing. So I have an exciting day filled with all different areas of the organization that impact our community.
So corporate responsibility at Webster really encompasses all those areas. It's multifaceted. I think sometimes people think of it as strictly philanthropy, but it's not in the case of Webster.
No, it is not in the case of Webster. We made a decision to bring all of these different areas that had been siloed in various areas of the organization previously together under one umbrella. We do take the work very seriously. I am a direct report to our CEO and chairman of the bank. So it demonstrates the commitment to this work, in my opinion. And as part of it, we did pull together a community investment strategy. It's a multi-billion-dollar community investment strategy that touches every community that we serve in a myriad of ways, from affordable housing to inclusive vendor representation, supporting low and moderate income communities, financial empowerment programs. It's a great role. I have to say, in all my experience throughout my career, and I've had a lot of great opportunities and terrific roles, but this is the one that drives me. This is where my passion is. And I get the opportunity to do something that I love and make a meaningful impact.
And I think that your early experience in the core of the business really has helped that. And I wish that all people involved with corporate responsibility have some line experience in it, because I think it really does help you deal with the work. And Webster is not unique, but it is really a leading edge in terms of its integration of its corporate responsibility strategy and the strategy of the corporation. They are not two different things.
That is correct. They're intertwined every step of the way. In fact, so much of the work that I do is working with each area of the business, each line of business, functional units of the business. We're joined hip at hip.
Yeah, and so how do you think, how does that work within the bank? How do you, who sets the corporate strategy? What group is that? What role do you play? And then how does that influence the strategy of the work that your group does?
So, in terms of corporate strategy, we have an executive management committee that makes up the top leadership of every area of our organization. And we work together to develop the strategy. We do have a chief strategy officer that helps facilitate that process, but we work together. Each area of the business has what they would like to accomplish, make sure that rolls up to the corporate strategy. And then that helps us develop what our community investment strategy is because it needs to be aligned. This work, it can't happen in a silo. It needs to take into account what the business is trying to achieve while we're also taking into account what the community needs are. So I will say, in terms of our community investment strategy, that work doesn't happen in a silo either. We do go out to the community. It is informed. We have community advisory councils in each of our core market areas that help us understand what the needs are so that we can make sure that whatever programming or initiatives we're putting into place can help satisfy the needs of the community while also helping to grow our business.
Yeah, now this all falls under a rubric of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Everybody calls it something different, but ESG became the label over the years. And your work pretty much centers and focuses on the E and the S part of it, I think. And whereas governance is more in the corporate secretary area, but all of it is intertwined here.
So yeah, I mean, we work absolutely hand in hand with folks in the general counsel office, as well as our risk management teams, cybersecurity. All of the work that we do is intertwined with every area of the business. And we're also the team that is pulling together our corporate responsibility report every year. And so that work is obviously the data and the information is collected with all of these folks. We're trying to drive home messages that we hear from every constituency, whether that's our shareholders, our communities, our clients, or our colleagues from within the organization. So we take those four stakeholders and make sure that our strategies are in line with what their needs are.
Yeah, and this is a really important, this is why I think your role is so important, because we're in a multi-stakeholder world where you have to balance the needs of all of these stakeholders. I used to remember it by my title, customers, employees only, CEO, but then community and environment and all of that. So you can't just favor one or the other, or just, you have to balance the whole thing. So what I hear you saying is really a best practice, which is, yeah, you're focused on implementing a couple areas, but you're really coordinating across all of these constituents.
Everything we do is cross-functional, collaborative, and taking into account those four stakeholders of community, client, shareholder, and colleagues.
Now, there's been a little pushback on ESG, not as much as DEI, but some of it's political, some of it's investor groups arguing about greenwashing, and there's been all this stuff out there, this noise. Has any of that impacted your work?
There's been a lot of talk about ESG as part of the political and conversation and social conversations taking place today. It is not impacting the focus that we have on our work, which is to expand access to capital, provide loans and investments, technical assistance, financial services to individuals and small businesses in low and moderate income neighborhoods across our community. You know, that work is integral to who we are as an organization. It's important for us to strengthen the communities where our footprint lies. It will only help our business long term. We have Finance Lab initiative that is continuing to provide opportunities for young people to help gain the skills to have economic empowerment and financial success, which will, then later help them be contributing members to society and potentially start small businesses, develop generational wealth. Those are all good things for the banking industry. We launch products helping people obtain their first home. Here's what I'd say, Steve, regardless of the political environment, at the end of the day, Webster Bank is a values driven organization, and we're going to continue to support the communities with our focus on economic inclusion, financial empowerment, and just driving economic vitality in our communities.
Yeah, and I think this is really important for our listeners because despite the noise and all this whatever happens around the periphery, the best companies are staying true to their values. They're staying true to their external goals and their strategies, and they're continuing to move forward and make progress on all of these dimensions. And Webster's a great example of that. Marissa, thank you for all your work in that. Maybe we can dive into a little bit more detail. Part of what you talked about is your environmental goals. Talk about some of your key initiatives there.
We are a bank, so unlike some businesses, we don't generally have as many opportunities to reduce a carbon footprint. We're not manufacturing or transporting or extracting anything, but we are working very closely with our corporate real estate team to encourage upgrades and enhancements to help us utilize less energy. In fact, we just implemented a pilot solar installation and EV charging station. So those are some things that we're excited about advancing our initiative there. We are a bank, so we're working with our commercial and business banking teams to grow our portfolio of commercial environmental loans. These loans fund renewable energy efficient components and environmental remediation. In fact, as of 2023, we had more than $757 million in loans for these areas. So those are some of the areas where we're focused on.
Yeah, so even if you're not manufacturing something or mining something or the big environmental impacts, you really can think through all of your strategies and what you're doing, and you still can have an impact. I think one of the top emitters of carbon are commercial real estate installations, which you have some. So you're thinking through all of that in your world, and that again is a best practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So going beyond the traditional environmental work, there's also the whole social element. Now, social can mean a lot of things to different companies. What does social mean for Webster?
So, social for Webster is how we are showing up in our communities and how we're showing up within our organization. At the end of the day, we built this community investment strategy, which is very much focused on how we're showing up in the community. It's about supporting affordable housing, it's about promoting engagement in our community, increasing access to banking services, investing in small businesses, launching a women and minority owned business banking team to meet the needs of the community, launching multicultural campaigns to make sure that we're again meeting the community where they are. People speak different languages, making sure we have colleagues in our banking centers who are certified to speak the languages that are within the communities that we serve. So there's all different ways from a social perspective that I think we're trying to tackle that.
We're talking about corporate responsibility at Webster Bank. We're going to take a short break and be right back.
What does the future of work mean for your employees? How will your company navigate ESG? Will there be a global recession? At the Conference Board, our experts translate the latest research and economic analysis into insights and real-time problem solving for your organization. Membership at the Conference Board provides your team with an assortment of knowledge, from economics, marketing and communications, ESG, public policy, and human capital. As a member, you'll have access to our center experts, member-exclusive events, data and benchmarking tools, and peer sharing that will help you understand the present and shape the future. Consider becoming a Conference Board member today by visiting www.conference-board.org.
Welcome back to C-Suite Perspectives. I'm your host, Steve Odland from the Conference Board, and I'm joined today by Marissa Weidner, Chief Corporate Responsibility Officer at Webster Bank. Okay, lots of great stuff going on at Webster. We talked about environmental and some of the social elements. Does community come under social, or do you have a whole separate community effort on top of that?
I guess we view them as intertwined to some extent, right? And I know I've been talking a lot about our community investment strategy, but it does guide a lot of the work that we do within corporate responsibility. I think I gave you the four pillars
Yeah.
of our community investment strategy. But we've been doing a lot of work around providing opportunities for low and moderate income people to make sure that they have access to banking services, to make sure that they can find that first home and be able to have the down payment to obtain that first home. So, yes, they're intertwined.
Yeah, and they're integrated and it's all one fabric. It's one strategy, which is why I hit each one of them, because Webster is so interesting in what you've created there, because it's not like there are all these different initiatives. It's all one thing, and it's interlinked with your strategy. So it's really a brilliant way to go about it. Your title is corporate responsibility. There's a lot of different titles out there for the kind of work that is done in companies: corporate social responsibility, corporate responsibility as you've done it, corporate citizenship. It goes on and on. How did you choose? I know you chose the term corporate responsibility very deliberately and after a lot of thought. And with responsibility means you take it seriously. You view this as a responsibility beyond just making money for the shareholders so it's a responsibility. So that, to be interested in anything you could share with us on the terminology and how you decided to focus on corporate responsibility as the umbrella.
Sure. And it's a great question. With responsibility comes accountability. And we really felt that it was important for us as a business, as a bank, to be accountable to the communities that we serve, to make sure that not only are we delivering for the shareholder, obviously we have that accountability. We need to deliver for the clients, and we have that accountability. The clients are part of our communities. We need to make sure we're delivering for our clients and then, of course, our colleagues. But really, the impetus behind it, like I said, with responsibility comes accountability. And that was our way of demonstrating to ourselves, to our clients, to the community, and to the shareholders that we're going to take responsibility to do just that, to be accountable.
And with accountability, you have to have KPIs, key performance indicators, or metrics that you use. Talk about how you measure things.
We're measuring our loan production to LMI in the LMI residential space, multifamily lending. We're measuring loan production from a community development lending perspective to small businesses, increasing the access to capital to small businesses. These are all metrics that we're tracking. Um, Volunteer hours in our community, philanthropic dollars that are being given out for programmatic initiatives. And then now we're going to start looking at the impact, right? So that's easy to track those things. And now this year, we're going to put together our first impact report. We've been doing this for 3 years. So, what is the actual impact on our corporate philanthropic programmatic initiatives, if you will?
Yeah, and there is a return for this. So this isn't just let's give away the shareholders' money. This is an investment in order to drive return that's consistent with your values and everything. It's not one or the other. And so there's an ROI here that you're measuring as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about our philanthropic giving, we have that also focused on key areas, which are in alignment with our community investment strategy. So we provide grants that promote job creation and strengthen small business development in our workforce development pillar. We've got a community development pillar to support the creation of affordable housing, and that would include homeownership counseling and foreclosure prevention, first time homebuyer support, credit remediation. We support community development financial institutions and community development corporations. And then we have another pillar of financial empowerment, which supports organizations whose main mission is financial empowerment and inclusion. through financial literacy programs. And I love to tell you about our finance lab program. And then, of course, we've got the basic needs and human services. But again, even in those areas, because you could put so many things in that category, but in staying true to who we are as an organization and what our strategy is, that's primarily addressing hunger and homelessness, right? Because those are critical pieces that need to be addressed in order to drive economic vitality in the community.
Now that you've teased it, you have to tell us about the finance lab.
It's one of the things that I think we're most excited about and certainly most proud of. So we launched a finance lab initiative. And in that initiative, we essentially partner with a nonprofit who has a proven track record, a demonstrated ability to serve the stakeholders in the community. And at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're partnering to deliver programming to empower young people and their families to make financially sound decisions, to have the economic empowerment and be able to, over time, understand the impact of the decisions that they're making financially, potentially learn how to put their money to work for them. One student who went through the program, my favorite story, said to me, I will tell you one thing I got out of the program. While I'm not going to become a finance major because I love engineering, she said, I learned an important lesson. And I said, what is that? And she said, I learned how to make my money make money. And I said, there's no better validation of the work that we're doing than to have a young person say that they learned how to make their money make money. Because that's at the end of the day, a fundamental principle of how you're going to one day generate wealth.
You've really brought this program a long way in just a few short years here. Where do you see corporate responsibility going in the next few years at Webster?
There's various programs that we're excited about. We're going to continue with our finance labs. We have 3 more that are launching this year, actually. We're in 2025 here. So we have 3 more finance labs launching this year. We have a multicultural campaign that's just launching. We've certified many bankers across our banking centers to be able to meet the needs of the community in the language that they're accustomed to. We've got a lot of exciting things on the docket. And what it's about now is really making sure that we stay close to our community partners, close to understanding what their needs are. Their needs are evolving and changing. The climate is changing. Their needs might be evolving and changing. And we need to make sure that we're able to meet those needs in a way that's going to stay true to who we are as an organization and continue to drive our business forward.
So then to wrap up, anything else that you want to share with us?
I think what I would say is we're very proud of how we show up in the communities that we serve. We've got many years, a long-standing history of community engagement and community support. We're very proud to be aligned with the conference board and all of the good work that you are doing. We've been a member for several years in different capacities, but specifically with the ESG Center over the last 3 years. And it has really helped us elevate the work we're doing. At the end of the day, I want to say thank you for the work that you're doing and how you're shining a spotlight on companies that are doing this work.
And we have to say thank you back to Webster and to you personally for bringing this strategy together and really leading it to the cutting edge, the best practices in corporate responsibility.
Thank you.
Marissa Weidner, thanks for being with us today and sharing your thoughts and everything that you're doing at Webster Bank.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much, Steve.
And thanks to all of you for listening to C-Suite Perspectives. I'm Steve Odland, and this series has been brought to you by the Conference Board.
You have been listening to C-Suite Perspectives, a podcast by the Conference Board.